This is hypnotic authenticity. This is a space for inner clarity, where hypnosis meets self-inquiry, where the stories that you carry can become gentle invitations for change. We're going to explore identity, emotional harmony, and authentic living through subtle, mindful approaches and a really, really good sprinkling of hypnosis. So take a slow, deep breath, and let's begin.
Your relationship to food has nothing to do with food. There's the punchline. Your relationship to food has everything to do with your relationship to yourself, to how you consider yourself, whether you think you deserve pain, suffering, pleasure, love, whether you are kind to yourself or you think that there is a scorecard to keep, and so on and so forth. So I want to talk all about that. If you look in books about, even let's talk about weight loss, because weight loss is a cultural message that somehow or other being weighty is immoral, or that you lack willpower. The entire message of culture is about the amount of effort that you put in and the success that you get out. And so if you're fat, then you're obviously lazy, sort of thing. Yeah, there is an implicit or an explicit conclusion which says you're deficient in some way. Even the word eating disorder, right? There is a massive suggestion in there. This is what I want to challenge, okay? How about if the possibility instead was that you and your relationship to food is manifesting a correct conclusion that you have been drawn to based upon your relationship with yourself? That it is a symptom, that it's not the thing in itself, that it doesn't matter if you reject the clean plate club, that it doesn't matter if you avoid or engage with sugary foods or fatty foods or whatever, that it's not about the food. That's what I want to talk about. Let me give you my personal sort of anecdote. Now, it's just an anecdote. It's only generalizable to me. But I think it's kind of interesting. So I have forgotten to think about my relationship to food, which is a wondrous state to get to, yeah? I heartily recommend it. I've just been away, you know, this, if you're astute, even though I'm looking somewhat like an egg here, if you are paying attention, you'll see that I am no longer in the desert of North America. I've been away for many weeks, in actual fact. I've been away for 6 or 7 weeks. Now, the only thing that I want to say about this is that every hook by which I might have maintained the routine of my food eating and my relationship to food and my habits and all that kind of stuff, every single thing by which I hang the hook of my routine when it comes to food has been obliterated over many weeks. And the funny thing is that, so yesterday I'm talking with a client about eating disorders, and it suddenly dawned on me that I hadn't weighed myself since I came back. And so out of amusement, I weighed myself. And the thing that made me laugh was A, that I had forgotten about it altogether, and B, that my weight was roughly speaking the same as when I left. It was about 1 kilo different. The best part about that is not the fact that the weight is the same as it was before. The best part about it is that I forgot, that I didn't even consider it as abnormal. It wasn't part of my preoccupation. And this is where freedom from food comes to. So, I don't know if you've come across this concept of intuitive eating. What we're talking about is thinking a little less and getting back into conversation with your body. That requires trusting yourself. It requires potentially not abdicating your responsibility to the expert, to what culture says you should and shouldn't eat, and trusting yourself. Now, we're talking about trusting yourself in relation to your body, there is a lot of cultural expectation. There is a lot of weight attached to this feeling of what I am inside myself. And so handing away the rule book that has been given to you and deciding to trust yourself can be somewhat of a scary experience. But it feels like coming home. And the only way that you'll know what is the other side of that is by experiencing it. But the wonderful thing about experiencing stuff is that that is where permanent change is made. It's by doing something different, seeing the results, and coming to a conclusion which can't help but shape and shift and perhaps pull the rug out from your previous conclusions. So it's all about your relationship with yourself. Do I trust myself? And forget about the idea of food. Do I trust myself? Do I consider my intuition valid? Do I consider the messages in my body valid? Do I even hear the messages in my body? What happens when an uncomfortable feeling comes up? Do I listen to it or do I push it away? Do I delude myself with some noise? Yeah, do I distract myself with some noise? Or do I dive into it, say thank you, and, go on then, give me your best shot, tell me what it is that you're talking about. Because in order to eat intuitively, in order to listen to your body, you have to consider that you are worth it and that you potentially know what's in your best interest, even when that disagrees with what Mr. TV or Mr. Health Expert says, that at least your point of view is equally valid. And so suddenly, when you do that, there are no forbidden foods. The things that you thought were relevant, they kind of shift. Your body needs energy. And the thing is, if you permit your body to tell you what it needs to eat, and you throw away the rule book, if you permit yourself to consider all of the forbidden fruits, well, it turns out suddenly those forbidden fruits aren't even as exciting as you thought they were before, right? Because they're readily available. And so you start to judge based upon the texture, the quality, the flavors, the gifts that are coming from the food. That also requires you to consider inside of yourself, do I deserve good food? Do I deserve to thrive? Or do I deserve to just kind of get through the day and pass the day as quickly as possible? Yeah. Do you see where I'm going with this? So by trusting yourself, you forget about the rule book and you listen to your intuition, you listen to your hunger, you start to calibrate your hunger. You're not eating because emotionally you want to stuff something down, avoid something. Instead, you're eating when it feels right, when it feels good, when you feel genuinely hungry. When you have an emotion which feels uncomfortable, there's no need to resort to food because instead you relate to yourself in a way which says, go on then, tell me what this is all about. Let's talk a little bit about culture, because it's important to consider that the way that you look at yourself is shaped through the messages that we are being receiving every day since the day that we're born. Not only the messages about body shape and about what it is to be manly or feminine, but also your entire approach to personal shame, your entire approach to the will to live, the desire to look after yourself, and the desire to suffer. Because all of this is wrapped up in your relationship to food, because food is a life-giving source. What is your perception based around how you fit into society, how you fit into culture, how much of that message you're going to receive and how much you're going to consider to be outside of your boundary, outside of your kind of zone of responsibility, and what are the choices that you're going to take from that? If I were, let's take a sort of a parallel, if I were to come across an individual who wanted me to stop them biting their nails. So they're biting their nails, and I through an extraordinary hypnotic gift, a hypnotic suggestion, I make them realize that these nails taste disgusting and that they cannot consider the thought anymore of biting on these nails. Yeah, but the biting on the nails gives them a sense of comfort. It gives them a sense of self-control. It gives them a sort of an ease that they can dive into for a moment or two. So suddenly this is disgusting, but the need remains. And so suddenly they may no longer bite their nails, but they'll find an alternative compensatory strategy. Yeah. Consider that your relationship to food is a symptom, is an expression of your relationship to yourself, and you suddenly start to see the parallels. So you might segment the rule book. You might consider at one element this idea of exercise, that if I don't exercise today, well, I can't eat tomorrow because I haven't done X, Y, Z. There might be a sort of an element of control about it, of the need to maintain control in one part of your life because other parts of your life are out of control, for example. Or it might be this idea of, okay, so how do I feel about myself? Do I deserve pain or pleasure? Do I deserve suffering or do I deserve inner kindness? How does it feel when I look myself in the mirror? All that kind of stuff. Effectively, what I'm saying about your relationship to food is, it's not about food. It's not about food. So ditch the diet books, ditch the regime, ditch the stories by which you surround yourself in a matrix of hooks and rules and thought processes and judgments and other people's judgments and contextual judgments. Just for a moment, give it up, throw it away, and start to calibrate with yourself. Start to nuance your feeling. Start to consider, am I genuinely hungry? When I'm genuinely hungry, I'm going to give myself what I require. Or am I trying to stuff down a feeling and no amount of ice cream is going to truly stuff it down? It's only going to work a little bit, sort of thing. You calibrate with your hunger, you calibrate with your feelings, you calibrate with your gifts, and you honor yourself. In a funny way, every single thing that I talk about is about getting back on your own side. It's about making friends with yourself. It's about trusting yourself and permitting yourself the joy of life. I'm going to shut up there. Your relationship to food, your relationship to exercise, your unrelationship, perhaps, your problematic relationship, is an expression of a very, very complicated cocktail of ingredients, some of which are personally experienced, some of which have been thrown upon us by cultural anecdotes and cultural expectations, some of which are completely misdirected conclusions that came at important moments in our life. And all of this is going on in our relationship to ourselves and our relationship to food. So especially if it's an emotional eating aspect, if it's a shame-based response, talk to someone about it. Talk to someone who is not a shame-based individual and explain what it is that you're going through. The key to all of this is unshaming. The key to it is radical self-acceptance. Radical intuitive eating comes from radical self-trust, and you can only get there from self-acceptance, because then you can start to calibrate where you are, check in with yourself, ask what feels right to you, honor that, and the end result is a beautiful body that you can look at with thrilled joy, that this feels true, that this feels like coming home, that this feels like the real you, the you underneath the noise. All right, take care. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If it resonates with you, then follow my podcast. I would also personally be really grateful if you might wish to leave a quick rating. It genuinely helps others to discover the podcast. If you personally would like more guided meditations, you want some deeper insights, you'll find all my links in the description. If you prefer a more visual boost, then you might want to check out my YouTube channel called Authentic Life Hypnosis. And if you're looking to do some deeper work that goes beyond one-way audio, then obviously you're very welcome to reach out. Equally, if you have any questions, I'm here to help. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.